It is really wild how you can just scroll through your social media feed right now and be completely bombarded by these beautifully lit capsules and vibrant smoothie bowls. There is this massive billion-dollar industry out there trying to convince you that the secret to eternal youth is hidden inside a $60 jar of crushed green powder.
That happens to a lot of people. It is a very common experience online.
Exactly. And it is so seductive because aging feels intensely personal. You start noticing that you just do not recover from a bad night of sleep the way you used to, or your energy just is not the same. Welcome to TalkKast. But I think if we take a step back, understanding what is actually happening inside your body offers a much clearer and honestly less overwhelming way to look at your health.
That is exactly right. If stopping the aging process were really as simple as eating a specific food or, taking a particular powder, aging would not be a universal human experience. We love the narrative that there is a secret cure out there, but it completely misses the messy reality of human biology.
And to really understand why those $60 powders are not the magic fix they claim to be, we first need to define what the body is actually doing when it ages. Because when people say they want to slow aging, they usually just mean they want to stay sharper or stronger or keep their skin looking firm. But biologically, what is actually happening under the hood?
It is a gradual, whole-body accumulation of wear and, crucially, imperfect repair. We tend to think of aging as a surface-level event.
Right, like getting wrinkles or gray hair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But underneath all of that, it involves microscopic damage and disruption. We are talking about changes to your DNA, your mitochondria, your hormones, and your entire immune system. Your body is constantly repairing itself, but over decades, that repair process becomes slightly less efficient.
So when we talk about imperfect repair, I am kind of picturing a photocopy of a photocopy. The first few copies are perfect, but over decades, you copy the copies, the edges get blurry, the text gets hard to read, and eventually the information degrades. Is that sort of what is happening to our DNA and our cells?
That is a useful way to look at it. And to add to that analogy, it is not just that the information degrades, it is that the broken machinery starts piling up. Inflammation, for example, becomes much more persistent.
Tell me more.
Well, when you are young, inflammation is a sharp, quick response to an injury. When you are older, it lingers. Muscles shrink if they are not actively used. Blood vessels stiffen, which changes how efficiently blood flows to deliver nutrients. It is just a massive overlapping system of biological changes.
I see. And knowing that aging is this massive interconnected system makes the way we talk about food seem completely out of touch with reality. We often treat the human body like a vending machine. We think if we insert a good ingredient, we will receive a single guaranteed result.
That is a very accurate comparison.
Like insert a bowl of blueberries, get younger skin, or insert green tea, get a protected brain. But I have to push back a little here because is it not completely understandable why we think this way? I mean, we have been told for years that antioxidants neutralize free radicals, and free radicals cause cellular damage. It sounds like simple math.
That is a very understandable leap to make, and it stems from a kernel of truth. The antioxidant theory of aging is based on real science. Unstable molecules, which we call free radicals, do cause damage to cells by stealing electrons.
Right, they're kind of scavengers.
Exactly. And antioxidants do help neutralize that threat by donating an electron. But the internet takes these intricate biological systems and basically flattens them into a cartoon.
A cartoon that sells products.
Precisely. The cartoon says free radicals are bad, antioxidant foods are good, therefore eating antioxidant foods stops aging.
And I am guessing that is where the vending machine logic breaks down. The human body does not just process one button push at a time. It ignores everything else happening simultaneously in the system.
That is the core issue. Oxidative stress matters, but it is just one single part of a much larger web. Aging also involves that systemic inflammation we mentioned, mitochondrial dysfunction, and cellular senescence. Senescence is a fascinating process where cells stop dividing but refuse to clear out of the body.
I have heard them called zombie cells.
That is the perfect term for them.
It is like having factory workers who have completely stopped doing their jobs, but they just refuse to leave the assembly line. And worse, they are complaining loudly, causing all this inflammation that distracts all the healthy workers around them.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. Those senescent cells secrete inflammatory signals that damage the surrounding tissue. So while antioxidant-rich foods are genuinely useful, focusing only on neutralizing free radicals completely ignores the zombie cells, the stiffening blood vessels, and the hormonal shifts.
That makes perfect sense.
Furthermore, there is a massive difference between the antioxidants you get from whole foods and the ones you get from isolated supplements.
Because in a whole food, you are not just getting one isolated compound in a vacuum. You're getting an entire package, right?
Yes, exactly. In whole foods, antioxidants come bundled with fiber, healthy fats, minerals, water, and thousands of other plant compounds. They all interact together in your digestive system and your bloodstream.
They work as a team.
They work synergistically. When you isolate parts of that story into a pill, it behaves differently. This helps explain why diets rich in plant foods are consistently shown to be beneficial, while high-dose antioxidant supplements have often failed to deliver on those same broad promises.
Let us look at the foods that are the absolute icons of this movement, the ones that get the most hype online, to see what they are actually doing at a microscopic level. And we really have to start with blueberries. If any food has earned internet fame as an anti-aging code, it is the blueberry.
They really are the poster child for this. The hype usually centers around their anthocyanins. Those are the specific pigments that give blueberries their deep blue and purple color.
So when those specific pigments, the anthocyanins, actually enter the bloodstream, I am assuming they're doing something physical to the blood vessels, not just floating around looking pretty. What is the mechanism there?
They are powerful bioactive compounds. Research links them to increased production of nitric oxide, which helps blood vessels relax and dilate.
Which improves blood flow.
Right. It improves blood flow and flexibility in the vascular system. There is also encouraging research suggesting that blueberries may support memory, executive function, or mood in certain groups, especially older adults. By improving blood flow to the brain and offering some systemic protection, they provide a very real benefit.
So what you're saying is they are genuinely healthy, but they are not entering your bloodstream and literally canceling time. They're just a highly effective, low-effort tool. You wash a handful, you eat them, and they provide this broad, passive shield of polyphenols.
Right. They fit into a very helpful pattern of eating. But as you said, they are just one tool.
So if blueberries are providing this passive shield in the bloodstream, what happens when we look at the liver and how the body actively clears out waste? Because that requires a totally different biological pathway, which brings us to the cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage.
Those are incredibly important.
They get a ton of attention, but I feel like the benefits are a lot less glamorous than the social media promises.
The science around broccoli is actually incredibly deep. It contains compounds like glucoraphanin, which your body converts into sulforaphane when you chew or chop the vegetable.
And what does sulforaphane actually do? Because, detoxification is a word that gets thrown around a lot, usually on the side of a $30 juice cleanse.
In this biological context, sulforaphane acts like a molecular key. It enters your cells and turns on a specific genetic pathway called NRF2.
Right, NRF2.
You can think of NRF2 as the master switch for your body's internal garbage disposal and antioxidant production system. Instead of just providing antioxidants directly like a blueberry does, sulforaphane signals your own cells to ramp up their internal defenses and clear out cellular waste.
That is fascinating.
It also helps manage redox balance, which is the delicate equilibrium between harmful oxidants and helpful antioxidants in your cells.
It is essentially training the cell to defend itself rather than just handing it a shield. But again, even with a mechanism that cool, it is not a magic eraser for cellular wear.
Exactly. Human studies suggest potential benefits for detoxification and controlling inflammation, but researchers in this field acknowledge that the evidence in living humans is still limited and uneven. Broccoli works quietly in the background to support your systems, rather than providing some dramatic overnight transformation.
And that brings us to fatty fish, like salmon and sardines. These are constantly sold as longevity tricks because of the omega-3s. But how do omega-3s physically interact with our cells? I imagine it is quite different from a plant pigment.
It is entirely different. Omega-3 fats, especially EPA and DHA, have established well-documented roles in heart health and brain health. Unlike antioxidants that neutralize threats, omega-3s are literally structural building blocks.
That makes sense.
They get incorporated into the cell membranes throughout your entire body.
So they are like the bricks in the wall of the cell, dictating how flexible or rigid that wall is.
That is a great comparison. By keeping the cell membranes fluid and flexible, omega-3s help cells communicate better and absorb nutrients more efficiently.
That explains a lot.
They also serve as the raw material the body uses to create anti-inflammatory signaling molecules. That is why they are particularly known for helping to lower triglycerides in the blood and contributing to broader metabolic health.
I see a distinct pattern emerging here. A food can be genuinely, profoundly healthy without being magical. Eating salmon twice a week is not a secret trick to stay young forever. It is just a realistic, practical way to give your cells the building materials they need.
It sounds a lot less exciting than discovering a secret longevity trick, but it is much closer to the truth of human biology.
But let us be honest. Eating ordinary salmon and steaming regular broccoli requires effort. It involves grocery shopping, cooking, and washing dishes. And human nature naturally seeks efficient shortcuts,
That is very true.
which explains why there is this massive, booming market for exotic superfood powders and supplements. Because why chop and cook vegetables when you can just mix a premium powder into water?
This raises an important question about how we view health and convenience. Those exotic items, like acai berries or goji berries, are not fake. Many of them are highly nutrient-dense.
Right.
They contain bioactive compounds that have useful effects. But the leap from being an interesting nutrient-dense food to being a special anti-aging cure that you absolutely must buy at a premium luxury price is purely a marketing move.
There is not actually a scientific definition for the word superfood, is there? It feels like it is just a marketing label.
There is no biological category called a superfood. Often, what gets labeled super is simply a healthy plant food from far away that happens to have incredible branding.
That sounds familiar.
A regular, inexpensive bowl of frozen mixed berries, some beans, cabbage, oats, and olive oil can do significantly more for your real-life health than a photogenic powder with a luxury price tag.
That is probably why the longevity industry has become so seductive. It goes beyond simple fruit powders into these highly specific, isolated compounds like resveratrol, NMN, and curcumin. The way they are talked about online, it sounds like you are downloading a sci-fi upgrade for your cells.
They generate a massive amount of excitement because they look very impressive in laboratory studies, usually in mice or isolated human cells. Resveratrol connects to sirtuins, which are proteins that regulate cellular health and aging pathways.
I see.
And NMN connects to NAD metabolism. NAD is a crucial coenzyme for cellular energy and repair.
Let us break that down because NAD gets mentioned a lot. If I am picturing this, think of NAD as the cellular currency your body uses to pay for repairs. Every time a cell gets damaged, you have to pay a toll to fix it. As we age, our bank account gets depleted, right?
Exactly.
So taking an NMN supplement is supposedly like making a direct deposit into that cellular bank account.
That is exactly how the industry positions it, and it makes perfect logical sense on paper. The problem is what happens when we move from isolated cells in a lab to actual, living, breathing humans. The human reality is mixed and highly incomplete.
That is the interesting part.
For example, taking NMN does appear to raise blood NAD levels, but the evidence for meaningful long-term anti-aging outcomes in humans is still very limited. We do not fully know if raising blood NAD actually translates into healthier, longer-living humans.
And what about resveratrol? Because for a while, that was the ultimate justification for drinking red wine.
Resveratrol has a huge reputation, but current human evidence is far less dramatic. The biggest hurdle is bioavailability.
Tell me more.
Well, you can take a massive dose of resveratrol, but the human digestive system metabolizes it so quickly that very little of it actually reaches your tissues in an active form. It largely gets flushed out.
That makes sense.
Curcumin faces the exact same problem. It is biologically active and fights inflammation, but it has persistent issues with absorption. In short, we are looking at incredibly promising mechanisms, but incomplete proof that a pill delivers the outcome in humans.
And then there is collagen, which might be the biggest one right now because it offers a highly visible promise. People want smoother skin, better hair, stronger nails, and fewer wrinkles.
The evidence for collagen is more nuanced than either the true believers or the heavy cynics usually admit. Some reviews and meta-analyses do suggest that collagen supplements may improve skin hydration, elasticity, and wrinkles to a modest degree.
Okay, so it does something.
Yes, your body breaks the collagen down into amino acids and specific peptides, which then signal your skin cells to produce more of their own collagen. But there are also real concerns about study quality, differences between products, and funding bias. It might offer some modest benefits, but it will not turn back the clock. It actually reminds me a lot of what we discussed in Do LED Face Masks Actually Work? What studies and dermatologists say.
We naturally want a targeted, immediate fix for something that is actually a complex whole-body process. We want the visible physical result on our face without having to address the messy, underlying biological system.
That is a fantastic connection, and there is a real psychological risk here that often goes unmentioned. When we reduce health to special products and targeted physical fixes, we start outsourcing our responsibility to purchases.
That is a very good point.
Buying a bottle of supplements makes us feel proactive. We feel like we did something concrete for our health today. But that feeling can easily distract us from the unphotogenic, repetitive, slightly boring habits that actually build long-term health.
That is such a vital point. If you are listening to this right now while drinking a premium collagen smoothie, but you only slept 5 hours last night, you might be fighting a forest fire with a squirt gun, because a supplement cannot fix a broken foundation. Think about the health halo effect. Someone might spend serious money on an exotic superfood powder. They feel incredibly healthy and proactive drinking it. But at the same time, they sit at a desk for 10 hours a day, and they are chronically stressed.
The reality of recovery is that there is no anti-aging food powerful enough to override an anti-recovery lifestyle. Sleep loss, inactivity, and chronic stress have intense, measurable biological consequences.
Right.
When you do not sleep, your brain does not have time to wash away the metabolic plaques that build up during the day. Chronic stress keeps your cortisol levels high, which actively suppresses your immune system and keeps your body in a state of low-grade inflammation. No amount of a K powder or resveratrol drops can neutralize the biological damage of chronic exhaustion.
So if the individual products are not saving us and we cannot buy our way out of cellular wear and tear, what is the background architecture that actually works?
The most reliable answer in human nutrition is that pattern beats product. Instead of looking for a single superfood to solve the problem, we need to look at overall diet patterns.
I get what you mean.
Mediterranean-style eating patterns are the real heroes here. This means a diet rich in vegetables, fruit, legumes, nuts, seeds, olive oil, whole grains, and fish. These patterns consistently show up in longevity research because they improve the overall environment that your body has to work with.
Talk about how that internal environment actually changes. Because a Mediterranean pattern is not just one mechanism, it is a symphony of mechanisms, right?
Yes, exactly. A pattern like that supports better blood vessel function through the unsaturated fats in olive oil. It provides better blood sugar regulation through the massive amounts of fiber in legumes and whole grains.
That is true.
And it lowers systemic inflammation through the diverse plant compounds found in a wide variety of vegetables. It creates a steadying, supportive effect on the body's systems.
And that is the key point.
It is not about one magic liquid or one specific berry. It is about the background diet, doing the heavy lifting day after day, providing the structural bricks, the molecular keys, and the cellular currency all at once.
It is ironic, really. The things that are doing the absolute most for our cellular health are the least exciting to post about online. Taking a daily walk to keep your blood flowing, getting 8 solid hours of sleep so your brain can clean itself, managing your stress so you're not flooded with cortisol, and eating ordinary vegetables. Consistency matters far more than intensity. What you do every single day shapes your biology much more than the expensive powder you occasionally add on top.
That is the core truth. Sleep is one of the body's most critical repair windows. Movement matters because it supports muscle maintenance, circulation, and insulin sensitivity. A person who eats perfectly but barely moves, or who takes a handful of longevity supplements but never sleeps, is completely missing the biggest pieces of the biological puzzle.
So instead of constantly asking which food slows aging, it seems like a much more useful question is which pattern helps my body age better?
That shift in perspective changes everything. It stops you from obsessing over single foods and encourages you to look at the overall architecture of your life.
That makes sense.
Food should not be viewed as a magic eraser for time. Instead, food simply lowers the friction of aging. It shapes the conditions in which your body operates. It supports repair, circulation, metabolism, and brain health. It makes aging healthier, even if it cannot make aging disappear.
That might sound a little less magical than the internet version, but it is ultimately much more empowering. It proves that healthy aging is not built on expensive, hidden secrets. It is built on accessible, repeatable systems. It is about the environment you create for your cells every single day.
Precisely. Healthy aging is about lowering the friction and supporting the body's natural repair systems, not stopping the clock entirely.
And it leaves you with a fascinating question to chew on. Let us say 50 years from now, science actually manages to formulate a single pill that perfectly mimics the complex, synergistic matrix of a whole food Mediterranean diet, a full night of sleep, and a long walk. If that pill existed, would we use it to actually live longer and healthier, or would we just use it as an excuse to treat our bodies even worse today? It really makes you wonder if our obsession with shortcuts is actually about health, or if it is just about avoiding the work. Thanks for listening to TalkKast.